Having spent 14 years in the corporate jungle with IT behemoths like IBM, SAP, Wipro, and GVM in Dubai, and the last 4 years building two non IT brands as a first generation entrepreneur, BrainBox is a podcast that is centered around leadership with guests from all the key functions, be it sales, IT, delivery, or even the very critical human resources function. We will discuss new trends, be it cryptocurrencies, cloud, human capital management, metaverse, all the way to work life balance, emotional health, physical health, with guests from over 10 countries. I'm Kaushik Bose, and welcome to the BrainBox. I have a very special guest with me today. I had such an interesting chat with him that I am doing the first ever two-part series with a single guest. He is Samrat Kishor. He is a technology and strategy consultant turned entrepreneur and investor. The first podcast with him will be centered around leadership, focusing on his experience across the big names in consulting like Thornton, KPMG, Deloitte, and Accenture across 23 countries. The second part would be on technical evangelism. Samrat is presently on the board of 4 startups, is the co-chair of Baseline Protocol, and is also the regional head of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. He has been dabbling with blockchain and artificial intelligence for nearly a decade. Samrat is also a guest columnist for Economic Times. So without further ado, let's start right off. Welcome to the show, Samrat.
Thank you, Kaushik.
So I just wanted to start off with, what is the earliest memory of probably that an answer that you will have to the very typical question of what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, very interesting. So I think this is this is a very intrinsic part of Indian society. When you're growing up, people ask you things of, what do you want to be when you grow up, and your schoolmates ask you, your people in the school ask you, your parents, relatives, etc. So I think I had changing definitions for sure. Just like most of the kids do. I don't know about present kids, but yeah, in my times and your times, probably people did have changing definitions of what they want to be when they grow up. So, but yeah, I think the one that stuck for a very long time was aeronautical engineer. I wanted to be around planes. I wanted to be around fast machines, and that sort of also translated into my love for Formula One racing. But yeah, I think that was something which stuck. And I also took up engineering. And unfortunately, at that time there was not a lot of aeronautical engineering stuff happening in India. And I came from a humble background, so I never imagined that I would go overseas and study aeronautical engineering. So that quickly changed into something which was exciting, both from an environment perspective and also creativity wise. So I wanted to do these things, and then I also wanted to sort of create things. I attended a workshop. I very distinctly remember class 9th and 10th, both years I attended a workshop. So I belong to Lucknow. Okay. I attended a electronics workshop in the regional science center. So there's a national science center in Delhi, and then there's also a regional science center in most of the state capitals. So I used to go there quite sometimes, in my summer vacations, when my cousins used to come down. Obviously, they used to hate me for that, but that was the only place just close to our house, and we used to have fun visiting that place. I was a good science student, so for me, it used to be a fun place in general. And then they used to conduct these workshops in the summer vacation. So I attended workshop on electronics. They taught us how to create circuits, very simple circuits, starting from quiz games. You remember those quiz games
Right.
we used to get?
Yep.
Where you match two things and the bulb will glow.
Correct.
So it starts from there, and moving on to a clap switch. You clap and the light turns on, clap again and the light goes off.
Nice.
So there was stuff like these, and it was not like a very long workshop. It was like a 2-week workshop. But in those 2 weeks, I had a lot of fun. I had the time of my life, and I was like, you know what, I want to do this because this gives me so much greater freedom. I could create the kind of circuits I want. I could use that glowing, that light turning on and off into so many ways. that light is turning on because there's a signal coming in, and
Correct.
that signal could be going into anywhere. So, and then there were relays and lots of things to play around with. So I think that was a fundamental, that was like a formative thing for me to think about electronics engineering. And then I sort of pursued that, and I took up electronics and communication engineering when I passed out from class 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So those were, I think what you want to be, of course, I decided, yes, I want to be an engineer. And then we'll think about where does this engineer go and fit in.
Exactly. Perfect. So we have about 25% of our audience in the age group of 23 to 27 years. So many of them are
Excellent.
in a stage where they would be probably looking for or about to get their first job. So how did you get your internship? I think it was in Sham Telecom, right? And also, how did you land your first lucrative job with Grant Thornton?
Oh, exciting. Okay, so you've done your research, Kaushik. Thank you so much for bringing that memory up. So I was a very keen intern, and of course, as good internships happen these days. Of course, we didn't have the internshalas of the world in that time.
Right.
We're talking 2004-5. So I had a good connect with somebody who knew somebody in Cham Telecom, and I was doing electronic communication. I thought this could be a cool internship to have in a telecom company, and they were doing something which is very interesting, and not a lot of people would know about it. They were creating repeaters at that
Mm-hmm.
time, and they were indigenously manufacturing repeaters here in India, and they were competing with the likes of Nokia, Siemens. So
Right.
imagine the region which they were working on. And then so for me it was a good exposure. I got through, obviously via this connection of mine. But yes, I think getting an internship and living through the internship are two very different things. So if you ask me that, what do I have as a message for the listeners that you just spoke about, I think very importantly, see, people will give you internships. Even I give internships in my current organizations. But what is important is, do you get maximum out of it? So, and how do you get maximum is out of it is, be always curious, be always hungry and foolish. I think that is key. It's very cliche to say all this, but I think I've lived through that. So I would literally walk into departments and talk to people about stuff, and I would just introduce myself. Oh, I'm the new intern.
Right.
and and people found it fun. I was catching up with people over coffee, over lunch, over various things, and then I would talk to them. And very interestingly, I ended up learning a lot about digital communications.
Mm-hmm.
That being, them being manufacturers of a digital communication device. And then when I came back to college in the next semester, there was a subject on digital communication.
Wow.
and and then I did fantastically well. So I used to be a very average student in my engineering days. Well, but that one subject I was always 90% plus, because I knew so much practically that what's going on. So that was the first one, and then I did another one. So I did 3 internships overall.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one was, the next time was Sham Telecoms, another division. The next year I called them again, and they were happy to offer me an internship again, another division. And then there was, another, fantastic internship which I got, which was a JV of Motorola and Tech Mahindra. It was called Canvas M.
Okay.
And Mr. Jagdish Mitra, I mean, he's one of my mentors since a very, very long time. He used to be the CEO of Canvas M. Now he's the Chief Strategy Officer of Tech Mahindra. He used
Nice.
to be the CEO of Canvas. He was running Canvas M, and at that time, mobile VAS used to be a very big thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what, let's also learn about this new and upcoming industry. So at that, and we are witnessing the biggest IPO in Indian history, Paytm, which also sort of made hay while mobile VAS used to be a cool thing.
Right.
So Canvas M was doing good stuff, and of course, big organizations have come behind it. There was Motorola, there was Tech Mahindra putting in their best people to create this company. So I had a good time learning things there as well. Of course, clientele was mostly out of India, not in India at all. But yeah, those three were fantastic learning experiences as far as internship goes. And as far as GT, so while I was coming out of college, I had about 4 job offers from various companies, and there, of course, Sham Telecom was one of them because they had seen me twice as an intern and they were okay to give me a placement offer as well.
PPO, yeah.
But and in those days, there was no restriction on appearing for interviews even in college. So out of the 4, 3 were off campus and 1 was on campus. And then Grant Thornton happened. So Grant Thornton was also an application. I made an application. I appeared for like, I don't know, 5 interviews or something. They were experimenting. They were hiring engineers for the first time. So Grant Thornton, KPMG, Deloitte, all of these are accounting firms. They're known to be auditors and consultants, and
Right.
they don't dabble with technology much. They didn't used to until those years. But they wanted to hire technology people to go through systems to conduct systems audits before the accountants could actually do the financial audits. So that was the first break which I got into consulting. Of course, I had some family friends who had been into consulting, so I knew that consulting is fancy life. I should probably prioritize this one over all the other offers. Of course, it was paying lower than one of my other offers which I had, which was with a Japanese company. But I took this one, and my first job used to be conducting IT audits.
So, by the way, I used to handle Sham Telecom as they were one of my clients way back in Wipro days. So I know that Sham is one of the most progressive companies that I have come across. And as you mentioned, of course, an indigenous one. So that's fascinating indeed. So
it was very fascinating for me to see those components being installed on a chip right in front of your eyes. I don't know how many electronics engineers actually get to see that.
Absolutely.
Chips getting manufactured in front of you.
So you were actually getting the practical along with the standard theory that you anyway get. So that is something, of course, that's very different. And since, of course, you've consulted in companies like KPMG, Deloitte, Accenture. So I just wanted to run this by you. There was an interesting study which actually said that high-performing teams make more mistakes. Partly because they talk about it more openly, and that's why the learning from these are more or higher. So what are your thoughts on high performing teams? Because you'd have been part of many of them and you'd have led them also.
Absolutely. No, Kaushik, that's a fantastic notion. Actually, I'm hearing this for the first time, but it makes so much sense that high performing teams make so many mistakes. So there are 2 reasons particularly which I feel maybe behind this. One is, of course, when there are high performance teams, they move really fast. Okay, so there's pace. So pace means that you're not finished up with a lot of details while you move on to the next step. So there may be things you're building as you go. So you're 80% there and you launch, stuff like that. That's one. Second is building in public. I think a lot of high performance teams prefer to talk to people about what they're doing and how they're doing it and stuff like that. So building in public also has a downside, which is people come to know about your mistakes very soon, very fast, and then they talk about that also. So these are 2 things which I see, and of course because you define it as high performance teams, that means it is a collection of people who are high caliber, who are experts in their field. So the chances of any initiative being successful increases, provided this high performance teams comes together culturally. Because as Adam Grant would have said, high performance people at times have lower EQ. I mean, I'm not judging or typecasting people, but this is just my experience that I've seen people with their ego would walk into the door before them. So that
absolutely.
So at times you come across people like that as well.
Correct. And what would be the top 3 qualities that you would feel which are critical to being a leader?
For a leader in today's world, I think very, very important is what's your integrity and value system around it. So, and when I say integrity, it's not just about being truthful and honest and stuff like that, but it also relates to your opinions and your thoughts and the way you convey your messages. Because I don't like people who flip flop. I don't like people who change their opinion. They're talking to somebody that they say something and then they're talking to somebody else, is something else. If you have an opinion about something, maintain that integrity. And if you change your opinion, of course, you're presented with fresh facts, you learn something new, or any environmental situation changes, and there's a change in your opinion. Fantastic, be open about it. But I see a lot of people lack that.
Right.
So that for me is a very important, a very important thing to have for a leader in today's world. Okay, so the second thing which I feel a leader in today's world should have is the ability to say I don't know. It's extremely important. There's plethora of information out there and plethora of subjects to talk about. So if there are things which even if you're working on that and you don't know 100%, it's okay to tell your team about it, your peers about it, your seniors about it, and so that you seek help at the right time. I think that ability to say I don't know comes with a lot of, only very secure people will say that. So I think I judge people basis their capability of saying I don't know.
True.
The third thing is, which I feel important for a leader today, is the ability to go back to the drawing board, which sort of also ties back to the previous point which I mentioned. And I'm not reading out of a list. So, Kaushik, so I'm just building my thoughts as I talk to you. But I feel that, once you've climbed a mountain, so for example, somebody has experience in a particular coding language for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the capability of putting all that aside? I'm not saying do that overnight. I'm just saying veg it out. But do they have the capability of picking up something absolutely new? A coder can a coder become a cybersecurity professional, or vice versa?
Mm.
Do they have the capability of going up the mountain, coming down again, starting climbing the mountain again, or going back to the drawing board again in their career and looking at what's more lucrative, what is more suitable, or should I have both skills together and just one of them is not serving my purpose anymore? Or does my skills do not have future beyond the next 5 years? So very few people have that kind of vision and ability again. So I think I do admire people who have this capability of starting from scratch and exploring new industries, new geographies, new business models. So Kaushik, when you asked me this question, the first thing that came to my mind was VUCA. That what is leadership in the VUCA world? So volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Right.
That's what defines the acronym VUCA. So what are leaders doing in this area, and especially the VUCA? That whole notion of VUCA has been magnified in the current times. With the new challenges coming in with COVID, working from home, all those cyber attacks, etc. happening. So I think the dynamics of leadership have changed a lot. So there are these 3 points which I just mentioned. One common thread that you will see is the security that a leader should have in their own skills and capabilities and background, that they're able to open up to the outside world, to their peers, to their juniors, seniors, everybody. So that's extremely important. So that's why the leader should be a 360-degree leader. And finally, again, I would like to mention one very cliched point, but it has played out very well for me in my life, and I have had leaders like that. So I will still mention it, that I believe in leadership only when you're creating more leaders.
Absolutely.
Of course, extremely important that first of all that to identify who the next wave of leaders can be.
Correct.
Right, and then you nurture them, you groom them, you create a new layer, and that's how you grow. So that's my and that has been my journey all along. So I'm sure people who have worked with me in the past or presently in my present ventures also would agree to it, that I give people opportunities, and that is a key component to my decision making, that am I enabling people around me.
Right. The 360-degree you mentioned, Samrat, is really interesting because that's something called the Dragonfly eye that I just recently read, and it's in fact even on my LinkedIn headline right now. So, to give an overview, dragonflies basically have large compound eyes with thousands of lenses and photoreceptors that are sensitive to different wavelengths of light. So, essentially, a dragonfly eye can take in 360 degrees of perception and is considered an essential attribute of super forecasters. Essentially, they're people who are successful at forecasting events, often even without domain expertise. So it's essentially seeing a problem through multiple lenses. By widening the aperture, we can identify threats or opportunities way beyond the normal periphery of vision. With this, we conclude part 1 of the BrainBox podcast with Samrat. Please stay tuned for the second part, where we'll be dealing around his technical evangelism for cryptocurrencies, startups, work-life balance, etc. Feedback is a gift, and ideas are the currency of our next success. If you have either, you can reach out to me on linkedin.com/in/Kaushik-Bose or email me on kbose@payrollcloudcorp.com. We are currently ranked amongst the top 4 Oracle HCM payroll implementation partners in the UK, and I'm tasked to expand our footprint globally while leading the sales and marketing functions. Hope you enjoyed the show.